What's up everyone, this is Jessica the Rising Phoenix Dev, and today what we're going to do is we're going to look at novels for a source of inspiration to create mechanics for our games. And the first one on the chopping block is Animorphs, which was written by K.A. Applegate. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with K.A. Applegate's Animorph series, there are rules that are associated with morphing. So, let's take a look at them. So there are 7 main rules to morphing which cannot be disobeyed. Rule 1. There is a time limit equal to 2 Earth hours. If one stays in morph for more than 2 hours, they are stuck, becoming a nothing. A nothing can never return to their original form or morph ever again. Rule number 2. You cannot acquire a morph directly from another person's morph or acquire a morph while you are in morph. Rule 3. You cannot morph directly from one morph to another. You must return to your natural form first. Rule number 4. It is possible to combine the DNA of several samples from the same species to create a new being for a morph. This is known as the flawless maneuver. Rule 5. Morphing sickness is a rarely documented case when a morpher is allergic to the DNA they have acquired. They become nauseous and are prone to involuntary bouts of morphing when under stress. After a certain amount of time, between a few days and a week, one burps the DNA, so to speak, forcing the creature out in its entirety. Through the cascading cellular regeneration, an entirely new animal is created and expelled from the morpher's system. They are then faced with the problem of having the animal there in the first place, should this animal be prone to be dangerous. This process of expelling the DNA is called Lint, translated from the Andalite tongue as burping DNA. Rule number 6. When one morphs a small... Rule 6. When one morphs a smaller... English. It's difficult. Rule 6. When one morphs a being smaller than themselves, the extra mass is extruded into Z-space. In the rare event that a ship would pass by, they would be drawn into it and likely evaporated by the ship's force field. Also, if one was to morph a form larger than oneself, the extra mass would likely be drawn into space. Rule 7. One can morph any living multicellular animal whose DNA they have acquired. However, one cannot morph a plant, a dead animal, inanimate object, a chair, or bacteria. Also, with the Z-space thing, should the ship pass by, basically the Animorph in question would be dead. Okay, so these are the 7 basic rules. So now we can kind of formulate what our mechanics will be. But obviously there's going to have to be some changes to the rules, to some of them anyways, and some of them removed entirely. So, which rules would have to be changed? Well, in this case, it would be Rule 1. Because unless you're actively checking the time limit for the players actually playing the game, or if it's a MMO style game, they're not likely to be in morph for 2 hours. They're going to switch depending on the situation, unless of course you're making this ridiculously huge dungeon crawling style game. So let's change that time limit. Rule 2, Rule 3, we can keep as they are. Rule 4, Rule 5, and Rule 6, we can actually just remove completely for now. And then Rule 7, that one can be kept as it is. So now, we need to actually kind of flesh out our ideas a little bit more on exactly how we're going to implement this. So I went ahead and kind of wrote down the rules that we're going to be using and the possible variants that we will use to express in code. So Rule 1, story is 2 hour standard. Our version will actually have a 2-minute warning or 2 minutes time frame. and a warning pop up for time limit approaching, and then after time limit is passed, remove morph ability, making the player stuck in morph pool. Rule 2 and 7 we combine into a single one, and we're basically just going to say it's possibly an enum or boolean to express it's possible to acquire the set or more. And then rule 3, morph button, revert player to base form, or give an error when trying to morph. So let's actually look at a pseudocode example of this, which conveniently I have already pre-written. So as you can see, rule 1, we made it a void just to simplify everything. So basically we want to calculate the time from the beginning of the morphing, and then if time is close to morph limit, play a warning for the player. It could be a visual warning, it could be anything. Now, if time is past the morph limit, the player is trapped. Or if the player has reverted, they're not trapped in the morph. Now, we also created an enum called acquirable. So basically, we're gonna just add all the possible acquirable creatures, and then the final one is not acquirable. And this is important for rule 2 and 7. In which case, again, it's a void. If animal is not acquirable, do not add to the list of acquired morphs. Else, add to the list of acquired morphs. So we're already stating that we're going to have a list that is created from the players that can acquire the morph. And then finally, rule 3. If player is morphed and they're trying to revert or change to a different morph, I should say, flash an error for morphing to another creature. If player is not morphed, then morph. Pretty basic, pretty standard, right? This really isn't too bad now that we've understood how to break this down from the story all the way to implementing this code. So now, in the next video, we're actually going to implement this. This has been the Rising Phoenix Dev, and remember, tutorials can only point you in the right direction. They can't teach you how to make the game into a dream, because every game is different and there is no right way.